This is an unrequited rant, completely off script, and completely impromptu in the middle of the night at literally 1:34. So, the idea of this whole thing is very, very simple. I've been sitting for probably an hour or two earlier this evening trying to record my Muckcast, which is my main podcast. And the thing is that this is heavily scripted. Well, I have an introduction, I have like a background session, I have my article that I'm reading, and then I give a few remarks, and at the end, then I'm done. And the thing is, that fucking thing always ends up at a 1 hour turnaround time, meaning that it probably takes me like 3 to 4 to maybe 6 hours to cut that shit down. And I'm not joking, because the first time this happened, I literally was sitting at the desk for 6 hours to cut a fucking episode of 40 minutes, and it drives me nuts because this is not doable for me. And also, I'm so much more annoying when I have to talk according to a script. I'm not good at impromptu things either, obviously, because I'm talking shit right now, as you can probably tell, but at least I'm a little more funny, I would hope, than if I'm trying to script everything. So I'm going to call this category the Mugshots, and only God knows if this will ever see the light of day, because right now it certainly is only seeing the light of the moon, the full moon blowing its ugly face into my room, which is the whole reason that my fucking ADHD brain cannot shut up. So, without further ado, I'm going to do something very, very simple here. When I feel prompted, and this might be whenever, I'm going to talk a mugshot, and it will only last 15 minutes. And when those 15 minutes are over, I'm cutting this no matter where I'm at with my talking, because I tend to talk too much, especially when I'm raging. So I'm going to click the timer in 3, 2, 1, go. The topic of today's mugshot will be pseudosciences. And funnily enough, pseudoscience is already on my topic of articles that I want to write on Medium, but I never actually tackled it, because if you want to talk about pseudoscience, you should sound somewhat scientific, or at least know what the fuck you're talking about. So I watched some videos. Well, I watched one video. Who am I being pretentious for? That's the video that really got me into the thing. And then I just started reflecting by myself and like thinking about how I could do the article, but it never actually happened because your girl didn't think that far. And it has kind of been on the back burner, and I saw it today. I scrolled past the idea and I was like, meh, for another day. And then something happened on YouTube just in half an hour ago. I got recommended a video about human design. And human design is one of those topics that's been around me for about a year now, because one of my professors is really big on human design, and she didn't tell me about it, but a friend of mine who knows her told me that my professor is into human design, and said friend is super into zodiac signs as well. And I myself have become a victim of over purchasing tarot and oracle cards. And I've already written an article about tarot cards about a year ago now, and I wrote another article about zodiac signs about 6 months ago. And for both of those articles, I really tried to get in deep, and I really tried to undig the why behind it and how did this happen. And for the tarot cards, it's pretty obvious. They're fortune telling cards, basically originated from an old medieval card of playing card game. And then this just kept being rolled out more and more and more, and people kept developing it. And at some point, a guy called Ryder Wilder, gosh, editing, took up this idea, and that's the number one deck that is being used right now. But if you're a person with mediocre skills of drawing or some ability to interpret things, you might just be able to do an oracle deck, because anybody and their dog can do an oracle deck if they feel like it. I'm not saying it's little work. I wasn't suggesting you to do it because it's a fun thing to do on the side, but I'm just saying you don't need to be an expert in anything to be an oracle card deck creator. You could basically take a bunch of photos of your cat. I'm saying this because my cat literally is licking his balls right now next to me. You could literally take pictures of your cat licking his balls, and you would be able to upload 35 pictures and call them some fancy name like the aura of the stars or the blessing in disguise. Or you might just call them a cat licking its balls in 35 different variants. Whatever you please. Anywho, this tarot card thing was interesting for me because I can purchase useless things, and I always love to do that. We all love over purchasing. That's what we were built to do in societies that were built on very capitalist basing. And second of all, they have a lot of artists and a lot of beautiful illustrations, and I just dig going through a deck of cards and looking at the illustrations like a dumb bitch. I totally dig that. Sorry, not sorry. And so I will, or you will, find me if you ever find me. If you do, that's scary. If you find me digging through my card decks at home, you will see me staring at the illustrations mainly, and then I will probably shuffle them and try to be really pretentious about it. And maybe I will even take out one of those crystals, because yes, I also have crystals. And I will try to get in the zone and lay out these cards, and then I will probably say some stuff to myself, just the way that I'm talking to myself right now, actually. What an irony. And when I'm done with that stuff, I will usually think about why I think the things that I think about my layout. Now, this is getting a little bit complicated, but basically what I'm trying to say is I'm not laying out tarot cards expecting them to tell me the future or the past or the present or anything for that matter. All I'm expecting them to do is be nice and be cute and maybe be a little bit surprising, and that's it. What I'm more interested in is reflecting on myself, like being like, why did you think that was the meaning of this card? That's what I'm interested in, because I find that says something about my subconscious, and that is the whole point of the tarot card article that I wrote a while back. I just wanted to know what the fuck my subconscious was trying to transport with such a strong conscious mind that is able to suppress everything at its fingertips. I'm literally, my conscious mind is like, I don't know, a cobra? Are cobra strangling snakes? I don't know. I'm a snake in zodiac sign, Chinese zodiac, but I'm definitely not a snake knowledgeable person. I know shit and dirt about snakes. Okay, this comes from a saying in German and it didn't translate well to English. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I've been into tarot cards, and I have a friend who's super into zodiac signs. She's one of those people who will ask a random person, "What's your zodiac sign?" And then she will be like, "Oh, that you're a Gemini? Oh, that's why you suck." And I'm like, "Bitch, how?" Like, I cannot believe this for the life of me. And I did an article 6 months ago about zodiac signs, and I dove into the history of that and found out that one old guy in Alexandria figured out zodiac signs, and he wrote 2 books. The first one being about astronomy, the second one being about astrology. He's the first guy who kind of differentiated those two things from one another, because previously people were just using the stars to, predict crop and predict droughts and predict water, bodies of water, which makes sense, right? The moon predicts the tides, and also the Nile River was flooding according to star constellations. So, everything up until that point made sense. And then this idiot decided that what if all planets are determined by the constellations, what if humans, who are basically all water, which is such a dumb decision, what if humans were also like that? What if humans were also determined by the star constellations? And instead of him deciding that every day in our lives would be determined by star constellations above our heads, he decided that the moment we are born will be the moment that determines what personality you have. And the point of my article at this point was to say that I feel like this is not really legit. Like, I'm sorry, guys, I will not believe this shit. But what I do find is very interesting is A, that this is a really, really old pseudoscience, and B, that this pseudoscience seems to me like a predecessor of psychology. Because what this guy was trying to do was basically to say, wait, people behave differently. I would really like to know why. And since there's no evidence, no graspable reason for me to assume any categories, maybe I'll try to categorize them by something that we're already using, which is the stars. Because at the time, guess what? The reason they were watching the stars is because they needed to track time. That is the main reason they came up with concepts such as months. So it made perfect sense, since the stars were already predicting time measurements back then, to also measure humans on the same scale. Of course, this was wrong. Fucking hell, of course it was. This guy lived 2,000 years ago. If he'd been right, he would have been a genius. He wasn't. It's fine, we forgive him. But, like, the funny thing is that people to this day still believe him. And even though there's like solid evidence against it, even on top of that, the Earth, supposedly, I'm not an astronomer, but I believe the science that my astronomer friend told me and the explanations that I found online but could hardly comprehend because my math skills are at that of a kindergartner. Anyways, I found evidence for the Earth wobbling, and that is literally a scientific term. So the Earth wobbles, meaning that the stars, when you are born, are not in the same position that the stars were in 2,000 years ago. Does that make sense? Like, if you had been born at the same time 2,000 years ago, the stars would have been somewhere else, is what I'm trying to say. But zodiac signs and birth charts still work according to the system that they built 2,000 years ago. So even if you're born under Aquarius today, that might mean that actually the Aquarius star sign wasn't even on your part of the sky while you were being born in your place, wherever you were born at whichever particular and peculiar time. So even if there was science, even if there was evidence for this whole thing, the stars wouldn't be where they're supposed to be anyway. So, like, it lacks any foundation, and it's actually hilarious. But why did this whole thing come to me? Why am I into tarot cards? Because they're literally at bookstores these days. The crazy thing is, when I was 10, there was a small yoga section in the bookstores, but even that yoga chakra section was regarded as dead territory. That was for people who had lost their minds. Now, I can buy a whole array of tarot card decks, and I will be walking out and people will be talking to me about it, and they will say, "You got one too? I got one at home. It's beautiful. What do you think? What is your opinion on blah?" I don't care, bitch. I'm doing this for the mere fact that I want to purchase something that I can take home and look at for hours for no reason whatsoever. I don't believe in this shit at all. I just want images. I might have as well bought a comic book, but I don't like the illustrations in comic books, so I bought a deck of tarot cards. I'm serious with you, like the tarot card deck that I bought, because of course I have some oracle cards, but I'm aware of the difference between oracle and tarot. And my tarot card deck is by Mucha. It's a Czech illustrator of the 50s, and he did a lot of advert illustrations, and I love his paintings, frankly. So I wanted that tarot card deck really bad, because to buy a calendar with his illustrations is like $20, and to buy a tarot card deck which has 75 instead of 12 illustrations is also $20. So, like, take a guess at which one I wanted. I see I only have 3 more minutes on the clock, so I gotta go quick to the point that I was actually trying to make, which is that today I found the not birth chart, because that is a whole other story and it's just another extension of the stupidity that astrology is as a whole. I found the human design, and as mentioned, a friend already talked about it, another professor liked it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I listened to my human design, and it's like with every zodiac pseudo science type of shit, you feel like these people are telling you something about yourself, and you're like, peculiar. Why do they know something about me? Well, the background of the human design, I'm trying to make this really, really erotic. The human design's background is basically a guy. I'm not joking. I don't remember the name because it's not of the essence, and I have a brain like a strainer for spaghetti noodles, as we like to say in German. Anyway, a guy in 1987 was sitting under the heavens, supposedly, somewhere in Spain. And this dude had basically an elongated hallucination. One might think a trip on drugs. I'm just supposing. This is just what I think. But I think this guy had a massive hallucination on mushrooms for 7 days straight. And then, supposedly, some voice was telling him, you have to create a system. And this system will consist of the zodiacs of the East and the zodiacs of the West and the chakras of Indian culture, and we'll put a pinch of science on top, and we'll call it the human design. And it is the answer to all of your questions. And this guy went out and proposed it, and people were eating it up. And people are still eating it up because it's another rabbit hole that, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a rabbit hole friend. I see a rabbit hole and I jump immediately. I don't think twice. But this human design rabbit hole, I saw it and I was like, nah. I'd rather cover this up with a lot of trash because this looks so useless to me. Because it's supposedly deep, but it's actually fucking shallow because it's made of a lot of pseudoscience. It's like the assumption of you take shit, you take dirt, you take pee, you add a pinch of puke on top, and then you put it together, and what happens is a cake. It's not. No one would eat that fucking cake. Don't we all agree? No one eats a cake made of different sorts of things that are disgusting. So why do people believe in something that is a compilation of different pseudosciences? It makes no sense. And it's hilarious, but also enraging to me because it turns into an almost religion. It is so far established that millennials and Gen Z are extra into these kind of pseudoscience-y topics. And it's making me mad because we were the first generation to have all the information at our fingertips and we decide to believe in that shit. I cannot fathom why. It just doesn't make sense to me. I will not start believing in this shit, and I hope you won't either. And if you do, I'm very sorry to you, but I really hope that you're fine. I don't know why you would choose to do yourself such a disjustice. I just hope you're fine. And that evidently was the timer. So 15 minutes are up. My recording says it's 17 minutes because I did have an introduction. Yeah, that was it. That was my first mugshot, or maybe I'm going to call it midnight shot, midnight espresso. It's not quite an espresso. It's a bit long for an espresso. It's like a midnight macchiato. Gosh, I need Sabrina. Anyways, I hope you had some fun listening to this because this was totally just one huge rant. I'm contemplating right now whether I should be cutting this into pieces. I feel like it's just uncuttable because it was one huge rant. And I want all of the miscellaneous mistakes in there. I apologize for my raginess. No, I don't apologize for my raginess because that's my personality, but I apologize for anyone who stumbled upon this and didn't want to expose their ears to somebody obviously with too little sleep at 1:30 a.m. But then again, I'm not sorry because if you stuck around until this point, I don't know what's wrong with you. So maybe the same thing that's wrong with me. So let's join hands. I hope you stick around for the next mugshot if you so please. And yeah, otherwise, I hope to see you on the Mugcast if you want to join in the conversation on something a little more serious and a little more educational, less ranty. Or you can just follow me on my socials on Medium at Hannah's Cafe or Hug in a Mug, which is the alias that I used to use before I threw myself into the battle of I want to be a real person. You can also follow me on Instagram at hugin.amug. So thanks for listening and have a good night.